Hey guys, Joe DeMarco from the Crazy New York Driver Show for Friday, July 15th, 2022. Welcome to another eBay video. Tonight we're going to be discussing a little bit about those pesky neutral feedbacks, an interesting Uline story. We're going to talk about those of us who've raised our promoted listings standard bid to 2%, what effect it had, if any, and your comments, questions, and concerns from last week's video. So that being said, let's get started by reading some of your questions, comments, and concerns. Addict Gems wrote, "Totally agree about the unpaid item assistant issue. I have been a full-time seller since 2000 and always loved the feature of automatically reporting unpaid purchases while automatically adding these buyers to my block list. I can only assume eBay purposely took down the automatic unpaid item assistant feature, knowing most sellers would not manually mark the sales as unpaid after the allotted time. I personally feel it must put a dent in eBay's gross sales profits when I, as many other sellers, have our buyer management requirements set to automatically block potential buyers who cause 2 or more cancellations of unpaid purchases within a 12-month period. I have a long list of restricted buyers automatically added to this on a weekly. So it's one of the eBay features that does work. It's definitely a pain to manually do this every week, but I encourage all sellers to still make this a part of their weekly routine and make sure their buyer requirements are set to block buyers and bidders who have 2 or more cancellations due to unpaid purchases. It does weed out a handful of the deadbeat buyers." I agree with everything Addict Gems said, and the only thing I would change is Addict Gems mentioned that they block people on a weekly basis. I do it on a daily basis. Every time I get an unpaid item, I immediately shut everything down and block that person. Now, on the same topic of the unpaid item assistant, ZXC, Gary the Coin Guy, wrote, "Joe, I can tell you how to turn on what used to be called the unpaid item assistant. Go to your seller hub. Under Shortcuts, select Site Preferences. Under All Listings and Orders, go to Preferences for Items Awaiting Payment. Under Preferences for Items Awaiting Payment, turn on the button Automatically Cancel Unpaid Items. Make sure 4 days is selected to cancel an unpaid item. Then, unpaid items will automatically be canceled after 4 days." Gary gave good directions to actually get to the unpaid item assistant. And I followed his directions, and basically it didn't change anything for me. It led me to the exact screen I was having problems with for the last few weeks, if not months. A few other people even sent me screenshots to my email. And it was basically the same thing. I could navigate the site to where they were telling me, but it wouldn't let me turn on the unpaid item assistant. It was telling me the shortest duration, the absolute shortest duration that I could actually claim an unpaid item was 11 days, and it wasn't making any sense. And I sent screenshots out to some of you to prove my point, so you know that I'm straight up on this. After fighting this site one night like crazy, I got an error message that said, "You cannot turn on the unpaid item assistant because you have your preferences set to allow buyers to combine orders for 7 days." What? Really? I never did that. I honestly don't know how my account came to have that specific choice selected. But there it was selected. I can only theorize that when I joined eBay in 1999, I selected that, and it's been like that for 23 years. But again, that's conjecture on my part. So what I did was I unselected that, I edited it, went back to the unpaid item assistant, and I was able to turn it on to automatically close cases in 4 days. We're not done yet. Do you think that fixed the problem? No way. As it happens, I had an item that was coming due in another day or two. And I watched the time frame, and when the time frame came, let's say 12 noon, nothing closed. The unpaid item assistant did not kick in. I gave it 3 more hours, it didn't kick in, so I manually closed that case. I don't know, there's a small chance it didn't work because that unpaid item case was already in motion when I clicked on the unpaid item assistant and engaged it, if you understand what I'm saying. But again, that's just conjecture. I have another unpaid item that's going to be due tomorrow night. And we'll see then. If the unpaid item if the unpaid item assistant kicks in, that's great. If it doesn't, you're going to hear me screaming loud and clear. Now, ZXC, Gary wrote in with a question. Is eBay going to have an online open event this year? They haven't had it in Vegas for several years. Yes, Gary and everybody, they're going to have one. You can register starting July 20th. I'm very surprised that you didn't get an email from eBay telling you about this, because I got one last week. Starting July 20th, you can register. I'm going to talk more about that in next week's video. 5797029, Mike wrote in. On July 4th, the sales exploded and have continued all week. I don't get many non-payers, maybe 2 each month. I currently have a remorse buyer from New Jersey harassing me in Spanish and English. I refunded him for the returned item, minus the original shipping. He wants an additional $46.93 for what he paid for shipping both ways. Total of 17 messages so far, including one while watching this video. Mike, I feel your pain about the nuisance messages like that, because I get plenty of them too. But what surprises me is that you only get 2 unpaid items per month. Oh Christ, I'm getting 6 per week. And that's with me carefully vetting the accounts. Anybody with a 0 feedback who sends me a best offer is automatic no. I don't care how much the offer, I don't care what the item. All right? 0 feedback, you cut your teeth on someone else's item. All right? If you want to pay full price for mine, you're more than welcome. All right? And even people with good feedback, I'm checking. I'm checking to see how many negative feedbacks you've left for sellers. If I see too many, you're not getting through the screening either. So my point is, even with my careful screening, I'm still getting a lot of deadbeats. Denver Flipper wrote, one of the fun things I see, or maybe don't understand, is when a competitor has a really low price on a similar item to mine with very little competition, and the shipping is either free or just ridiculously too low. I've even bought their item to see how they get away with the shipping. They had to have lost money. But yes, they might not have paid anything for their item. But still, it's very strange. But my theory is that the seller had no clue how much shipping cost, and I don't live in Hawaii. LOL. First drink of Gatorade. Last comment of the night is from Rochelle Murnett. Hey Joe, I agree with you on non-paying buyers. I had one a few weeks ago. We went back and forth negotiating prices on 8 items in my store. She accepted 6 of the offers. When she was all done, I sent an invoice with combined shipping. Then I waited and waited and waited, no payment. Before the order timed out and was auto-canceled by eBay, I reached out to her and reminded her that she had about an hour to pay before eBay would cancel the order and she would get 6 strikes for non-payment. Crickets. After the items auto-relisted, I blocked the buyer. I noticed a few days later that the same 6 items already had watchers. Then the messages started coming in from the original non-paying buyer. Sob story after sob story. I just ignored her. Then she told me she was going to report me to eBay for canceling her order and for blocking her. I responded to that message and told her I did not cancel her order, but eBay did. I also told her I messaged her 1 hour before the impending cancellation, so she had forewarned of what would happen if she didn't pay. I don't think eBay should take my items off the platform until the buyer's payment clears. I have since sold those 6 items to good paying buyers at the full price. Michelle, I agree with everything you've said except for one thing. There's one thing you did that I would never do. And that's the fact that you messaged the buyer when she had 1 hour left to pay. All right? I don't need any sales that badly. When a buyer sends me a best offer and I accept it, I automatically send them an invoice. That's it. That is the end of our communication, or it should be the end until the buyer gets the item and thanks me for it. All right? There should be no dancing and no communication between buyer and seller until payment is forthcoming and the person receives the item. And you mentioned that she said she's going to report you to eBay for blocking her. That is just plain ridiculous, all right? But yes, I've had a few of those myself that they're going to report me to eBay for blocking them. And sometimes I write back to them and say, listen, I will never unblock you as long as I live. And please don't think you're going to create another fake account just to buy the item, because if it is registered to the same zip code, I will cancel the order, all right? There is just no reason for this. In the year 2022, like Michelle said, it's sad. She had 6, I would imagine, popular items that this deadbeat took off the shelf for 4 days, depriving Michelle of selling them to good paying buyers. That's something eBay should have fixed years ago and just refuses to address. All right, let's talk about some new topics. I'm going to start off with the 2% promoted standard fee increase. We've talked about this over the last few weeks, and I believe it was the 11th when the new fee rate kicked in. So that was last Sunday, if I'm correct. And for some reason, I've been very busy on eBay lately, with the exception of last Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the entire day, I didn't make a single sale till 6 p.m. at night, which is unheard of. Then maybe 2 more sales later Saturday night. Terrible, terrible, terrible for a Saturday. Sunday, I started out with nothing. And I was getting concerned, all right? And then I said to myself, you know what I'll do? I said, I have some time. Let me bulk edit my listings to reflect a 2% bid instead of the old 1% bid, because eBay stated that if you're bidding only 1%, your promoted listing engagement will no longer take place. So I guess it was about 3 o'clock. I bulk edited my 1,600 items all at one time to reflect a 2% promoted listing standard bid. I don't think it took more than an hour. Bang! The sales came in like I was giving stuff away. I mean non-stop. And it continued into Monday. It continued into Tuesday. Wednesday it started slowing down a little. But I'm telling you, the first 3 days I engaged it, it was just freaking insane. I said, this is great. This is excellent. It could be a crazy coincidence, or maybe not. All right? I just want you to know what I experienced. And for those of you guys who are in a competitive field, like I'm in eBay Motors, I do suggest you bid the 2% minimum, okay? Those of you guys who sell in collectibles, you don't have to do it, all right? Your people are a whole different breed, but for the rest of us, I suggest it. Now, I want to talk about two more good topics I have for you. I'm going to start off with pesky neutral feedback after I take another sip of Gatorade. I really don't see any need for neutral feedback on eBay. If you send an item as described and the buyer's happy, you should get positive feedback. On rare occasions when the deal doesn't work as it should, and a seller does stiff a buyer, negative feedback is called for. I can't see any reason for neutral. All right? It doesn't mean anything and it has a negative connotation to it. And I'm going to tell you two things that happened to me in the last few weeks. I received 2 neutral feedbacks in the last 3 weeks. The first one came in about 3 weeks ago. And I had sold a set of 4 hubs to a buyer. 2 were very good, 2 had blemishes. The buyer left me neutral feedback and said something like this: 2 of the items were very good, but the other 2 were blemished. It's my fault because I didn't thoroughly read the listing. The buyer flat out admitted they didn't read the listing. What right does that person have to leave me a neutral when they didn't read the listing? Although it upset me to a point, I've said this before on camera, I will never call into eBay specifically for a neutral feedback. I have to have 2 or more issues to warrant a call. Now, if it had been a negative feedback, yeah, I'd be pushing the buttons. But it wasn't a negative. It was a neutral. So everything went along until just the other day when I got another neutral feedback. And do you want to know what the buyer wrote? You're going to love this one. This one I can actually quote exactly. It was very short, sweet, and to the point. Item was as described. I'll say it again. Item was as described. If the item was as described, why are you leaving me a neutral feedback? I checked the feedback he left for other sellers. In the last month, he left 2 feedbacks. My neutral and a negative for another seller. I didn't call eBay. I used the call me back feature. It said there was a 2-minute wait. It actually took about 25 seconds. They called me right back. I showed the customer service rep exactly what was going on. Bang, bang, removed them both. Goodbye, Columbus. Goodbye. 2 neutrals have hit the dust. But seriously, I don't really think anybody should be leaving neutral feedback on eBay. They should take that option away. Because the way it's set right now, if you think about it, it's 2 bad and 1 good for a seller. Meaning you have a 1 in 3 choice of getting good feedback versus 2 out of 3 bad feedbacks. It should be positive or negative. All right? That's it. They should do away with that neutral. Now I have an interesting Uline story. All right? So the other day I placed a large order with Uline. As you probably know, I do this every few months. It was about 6 pallets. I received the items. Everything was fine. And what I always do when I order from Uline like that, I take pictures and I post them in some of the eBay Facebook groups. You know, people really like these pictures and they like to see what's going on, and it really spurs a lot of discussion. But one person wrote in and said something like this. She said, "Joe, you sure order a lot. How do you afford the exorbitant shipping charge that Uline imposes?" And I said to her, "There's no shipping charge. I said, as long as you spend over, I believe, $600, shipping is free. And she wrote back and said to me something to the effect, you're out of your mind. She said to me, I've been buying things on Uline for 15 years, and I have never had free shipping in my life. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, I've been buying on Uline for 20 years, and I've never paid for shipping in my life. They do impose a $30 liftgate fee for the truck, all right? But they don't charge for shipping per se. So the lady then posted a picture. She scanned in her last 2 invoices where she spent approximately $1,500 each time, and they charged her about $350 shipping. So she's telling the truth. She then called up Uline. She called up specifically because she's reading my post and she's upset. She called up Uline, got a customer rep, and wants to know why she's not getting free shipping. And the Uline rep says to her, we don't give free shipping to anybody. The only way you might be getting free shipping, meaning me, is if your account was grandfathered in. So really? And I said to this lady, how long have you been dealing with Uline? I figure maybe she's a new customer. Maybe the grandfather rule is true. But this lady's been dealing for 15 years. I've been with Uline for 20. So I'm going to show you something here on the phone. I decided to post this so the lady knew I was telling the truth. This is from an email I got from Uline maybe a month or 2 ago. All right? Now I have a question for you guys. Those of you who do deal with Uline, do you get free shipping on orders over $500? Yes or no? This question is only to those of you who actually do business with Uline. I have been with them for 20 years. I've never paid for shipping. That's why, I mean, some people say they charge a little bit more for their items than other places. I don't find that the case. Years ago, I had a person in my area, and he knew I was spending a lot of money with Uline. And he claims to be some kind of box distributor, and he was going to give me some good price. So I showed him my invoice. All right, I said, can you beat these prices? And he says, I can maybe go down a penny a box. I said, a penny a box? That's nothing. I said, what about the shipping? And he says, well, I can load the boxes in the back of my pickup truck. He actually said that to me, his pickup truck. Is he going to put 6 skids of boxes in the back of his pickup truck? This is not a commercial for Uline, but I'm just trying to tell you, for me, I think they are the best answer. Okay? I always spend over $500, usually closer to $2,000 per order. So yeah, and when I buy boxes, this time I bought 1,000 boxes of the 16 by 16 by 3 because they were charging, I think, $1.56 a box if you're only buying 250. But the more you buy, the cheaper it gets, okay? And she told me they're having a price increase. Get that. They're going to have a price increase in September. I said, give me 1,000. So at least I'm set for the small boxes for now anyway. But yeah, that's my interesting Uline story, and I'm sure you guys have something to contribute, and I sure hope you do. Sales this week were very good, with the exception of Saturday and Sunday, till I adjusted my promoted listings bid. Wednesday, it slowed up a little bit. Thursday, but still decent. Still decent. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it wasn't booming like it was earlier in the week. Thankfully, I had no returns this week at all. Not a one, but I did have quite a few deadbeat bidders. Not going to lie, not going to sugarcoat anything. I was talking to a friend of mine who's not an eBay buyer or seller, but he's very interested in it because he sees me every day with my car loaded with packages. And we always talk a little bit about eBay. And he shakes his head in disbelief when I tell him about deadbeat bidders. And he cannot fathom that a person would send a seller a best offer on eBay, have it accepted, and then not pay. He can't wrap his mind around that mindset, and even worse, he can't wrap his head around the fact that eBay refuses to sanction deadbeat bidders. Now, in the story I read earlier with Michelle, that lady stiffed Michelle on 6 items. Now, shouldn't that lady automatically be banned from eBay? Come on, we know she's not, and we know she's not going to. But yeah, that's basically it for tonight. I don't want to go as long as I did last week. I don't want to upset anybody. But just keep in mind that I'm Crazy New York Driver and you're not. Thank you for watching this video. Every Friday night I come out here and I make these videos to help you stay successful as an eBay seller. If you think I'm doing a good job, please leave me a thumbs up. It tells me I'm on point and appreciated. If you don't think I did a good job, tell me in the comment section what you want me to hit up next week, and I'll do my very best to do that. Guys, I hope you make a ton of money on eBay. Go out there and make some sales. Rock on and peace!